In just one morning, typhoon number 10 left behind scars that will never fade. The howling wind tore roofs off houses like scraps of paper trees snapped and crashed to the ground, and cries for help echoed everywhere. No one could have imagined that in just a few hours, a peaceful land could be reduced to ruins. The cold, haunting numbers speak for themselves: 16 dead, 13 missing, 69 injured, and 8 more still unaccounted for. Over 100,000 homes had their roofs ripped off, leaving families staring at what used to be their safe haven, now nothing but wreckage and despair. This isn't just one person's story. It's the tragedy of tens of thousands of families. And behind every number lies a life, a tear, a broken future. If you're watching this video, please take a second to hit like so more people can see, and share this. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel to stay updated with the most urgent news and the gripping real-life stories you can't miss. Brace yourself, because right now, we're going to step into the terrifying moments of typhoon number 10, the storm that wiped out an entire region in the blink of an eye. The rain poured down like a waterfall, drowning out even the sound of my own breath. Outside, the sky turned pitch black, thunder cracked nonstop, and the wind screamed as if it was ready to tear the heavens apart. In our fragile bamboo shack, I clutched baby Joy tightly, feeling her tiny body tremble, which only deepened my panic. Every sound was louder, harsher, pressing down on us until it was hard to breathe. Suddenly, cutting through the chaos, came the commanding voice of Nam, the man I had always seen as a savior. His shout rose above the storm. "Comrade Hugh, report to the committee right now. Emergency order: evacuate everyone in the lowlands immediately. The water is rising too fast. We don't have any more time." I could hear the desperation in his voice, as if every second slipping by meant dozens, maybe hundreds of lives being swept away by the raging flood. Outside the door, flashlight beams flickered, shadows of people ran frantically back and forth shouting. The wail of sirens pierced through the pitch-black night, long and chilling. In western Ghanaian, days of relentless rain had turned the entire countryside into an ocean. The flood came roaring in like a monstrous beast, devouring everything in its path. Rice fields, cattle, small, fragile homes, and even cries for help swallowed up in the cold, foaming waters. People often say, disasters spare no one. And in that moment, I understood it more deeply than ever. I looked up at the thin bamboo roof above me. Rain pounding down, cold streams of water dripping through the leaks. A terrifying thought gripped me. If the flash flood sweeps through here, what will happen to us? Can this fragile shelter possibly withstand the brutal force of the storm? In my mind, the worst scenarios came one after another. Roofs being ripped away, children screaming, hands reaching helplessly out of the raging current, images that tore at me until I could hardly breathe. I held my child tightly, praying for a miracle. But outside, the storm kept howling, the floodwaters raged on, and the urgent evacuation orders echoed again and again, each one heavier, more suffocating than the last. And then, as the sky outside churned with dark clouds, and the wind howled like some kind of demon's cry, Nam, with eyes tense and determined, made a decision I'll never forget. His voice was firm, but laced with worry. "This isn't good. We need to get ropes now. If not, this shack won't hold up in the storm. I have to get inside and help her secure it immediately." With just those few words, I saw the image of a man ready to throw himself into danger, no matter how fierce the storm outside was. He didn't choose to sit and wait. He chose to face the raging winds head on, just to protect me and my child, two strangers whose lives had become tied to his by sheer fate in the middle of this disaster. Nam hurried over, carrying several heavy coils of thick rope slung across his shoulder. The flashlight beam lit up his face, catching the sweat mixed with rain dripping down his skin. His expression showed pure tension, worry etched so deeply it was hard to describe. Over the roar of the storm, he spoke to me in a trembling but sincere voice. I just watched the news. They said this storm is brutal. And here you are, living in a bamboo hut with bamboo walls. I don't feel safe about this. If the wind picks up any stronger, the whole thing could collapse. I was speechless. He was right. This flimsy hut I had hurriedly built for shelter was nothing more than a fragile bird's wing against the storm. I knew that one strong gust could rip the roof clean off, and both me and my little girl would be swept away into that blinding curtain of rain. Nam wasn't only worried about flooding, he warned me of something even more terrifying, a landslide. His voice dropped firm and deliberate. Up in the highlands, flash floods aren't the biggest threat. But your hut, it's too close to the base of the mountain with that steep hill right behind it. Just a few more hours of rain and the soil will loosen. The whole mountainside could come crashing down at any moment. And when that happens, even ropes won't save it. I shuddered. A horrifying vision filled my mind, earth and rock roaring down from above, crushing everything in their path. I pulled Zoe tighter into my arms, my heart drowning in fear. Every sound outside suddenly felt like a death knell. The wind howling the rain, lashing the cracking of branches snapping in the storm. All of it blending into one deadly symphony. But in that moment, the sight of Nam dragging coil after coil of rope, his eyes fierce and his stance unshaken against the storm, became the only glimmer of hope in the darkness. His bold decision to go buy ropes and return right into the heart of the storm to help me and my child wasn't just about saving a fragile hut. It was about saving lives. We both knew it clearly. If we didn't act immediately, the hut would be ripped away like a dry leaf in the hurricane. It was hastily built with thin bamboo walls and a roof slapped together with palm leaves. One stronger gust of wind and everything would collapse. In that moment, unspoken but deeply felt, both Nam and I knew this was a fight for survival. Nam tightened the heavy rope in his hands, his eyes flashing with determination through the curtain of rain. He shouted, his voice breaking against the roar of the wind. "We have to secure all four corners now. There's no time left." His words felt like a command. I immediately rushed out into the storm, my feet sinking into thick mud as I searched desperately for short bamboo poles to use as stakes. The wind lashed against my face like knives. The rain whipped down like 1,000 lashes, but I kept forcing myself to pull up each bamboo stalk, to break off each branch, trembling with fear. My heart pounding so hard, I thought it would burst out of my chest, while I staggered back, dragging the bamboo. Nam was already climbing onto the roof of the hut. That image is burned into my memory, a lean but strong figure, clinging tightly to the roof beams, one hand gripping the wood, the other looping the rope around knot by knot, while the raging winds tried with all their force to knock him down. Every time the storm screamed, the hut groaned and cracked, making a sound like it was about to give way. I could hear the bamboo splitting the rope straining as if it would snap any second. Terrified, I screamed out my voice, hoarse and breaking, "Nam, be careful." But he didn't stop. His teeth clenched his face, dripping with rain and sweat, his eyes burning with unshakable determination. Every knot he tied, every rope he pulled tight against the ground, felt like fragile lifelines holding the hut together. I dropped to my knees in the mud, hammering bamboo stakes into the soft ground with everything I had. The soil was mushy, and the stakes kept slipping loose, but I pushed with all my strength. My hands went numb, my knees bruised and raw, yet I forced each pole deeper into the earth. Thunder cracked overhead, my hands shaking uncontrollably, but I didn't dare pause, not even for a second. The rain grew heavier, pounding harder and harder, the wind shrieking like a wild animal, ripping at the roof, lashing my face raw. The entire hut shook violently, as if it could be torn out of the ground at any moment. It felt like I was fighting an invisible beast, raging and relentless, trying to tear everything apart. Finally, as the last stakes were driven in and the ropes pulled tight across all four corners, Nam leapt down. His whole body was soaked, his breath ragged. He looked at me, his eyes filled with both worry and resolve. And above the roar of the storm, he shouted, his voice choked but steady. "At least, it'll hold for now. Stay strong. We have to keep this roof standing until the end." In that moment, I realized I was living right at the edge between life and death. And this man, through sheer courage and one bold decision, had stood beside me, building one final shield to protect me and my child from the storm. At last, the four corners of the hut were strapped down, with ropes stretched tight like bowstrings. I collapsed into the mud, gasping for air, my whole body drained of strength. In my ears, only the rush of blood in my chest and the relentless pounding of rain stabbing down like knives against the thin thatched roof. For the briefest moment, I thought we might survive this. The hut trembled, but it was still standing. A fragile glimmer of hope had sparked to life in the middle of the raging storm. But nature has never been one to let go so easily. From the mountainside behind us came a strange rumble. At first, it was just faint crackling sounds, like someone scraping at the earth. But in an instant, it turned into a terrifying roar, as if the entire mountain was shifting. The ground beneath my feet trembled, mud rippling like waves, and streams of muddy water suddenly poured down in small, rushing cascades. I lifted my head, my eyes wide, blurred by the storm. In a flash of lightning, I caught sight of the slope above, splitting apart, cracking open like a massive wound. The earth and rocks began to slide, surging downward like a giant snake awakened from a long sleep. The howling wind was drowned out by the thunderous crash of the collapsing mountain, pounding and deafening. My whole body froze, chilled to the bone, but a mother's instinct made my arms clutch little Joy tighter. My heart was hammering, shaking so violently it felt like it might burst. I knew if that mass of earth came crashing down, no amount of rope could save this hut. It would be nothing more than a dry leaf swept away in a raging flood. In that split second, hundreds of questions tore through my mind. Would we have any chance to escape? Had all the effort of holding the hut together for hours been meaningless? And did I even have the strength to protect my child before we were buried alive? A bolt of lightning ripped across the sky, illuminating Nam's face, frozen in shock, as he stared at the mountainside. The rain poured harder, relentless, as if determined to drown everything. I heard his heavy breathing, but before I could even see him turn toward me, the world exploded with a deafening crack of thunder. And then, the massive shadow of earth and rock from above began to collapse, tumbling straight down. The hut we had just tied down, could it withstand this second nightmare? Or was this only the beginning of an even greater tragedy yet to unfold?